let's learn how to create a Curipod lesson in Curipod using its AI features. Once you log in, you are going to land on the home page. I want you to go over here and actually click the View All button, because what this does is allows you to see all of the different types of activities that you can create in Curipod organized by type. So you can kind of get an idea of all the different things you can do with it. I think it's best when you're first learning Curipod to start with the generate a lesson option, because it's the most similar to how we usually teach. So generate a lesson. Now it's going to ask you to describe your lesson. So this is where you're going to want to give a prompt. While it is running, I will read the prompt to you so you can get a little bit of an idea of what you might want to put in your prompt. I said, create a 15-minute 6th grade information technology lesson to address the following topic. Analyze resources for a point of view, bias, values, or intent of information, specifically focusing on artificial intelligence bias. Little tip for you, part of that prompt was copied and pasted directly from the standard that I am wanting to hit by creating this lesson. Now, Curipod has read my prompt. One of the things that I really like about it is it will ask follow-up questions and for more guidance before it goes and creates the entire lesson to make sure it knows what you want from it. So this is asking me, can I clarify? I'm going to hit B and click enter. It's going to run again. Now it is telling me, okay, this is what I am interpreting from your prompt. Subject, grade level 6, here's my learning objective, duration. At this point, if I'm like, yep, this is exactly what I want, I can click generate lesson. Or maybe it missed the mark a little bit. I can say keep chatting and I can redirect the AI to exactly the learning outcome that I want for this lesson. I'm going to go ahead and click generate lesson. It'll ask you to choose a theme. Now it's opened into the edit mode essentially of Curipod, and it is generating the slides and adding activities to those slides for me automatically. So that took about 2 to 3 minutes and it generated 10 slides. At this point, you can stay in the AI mode and you can prompt it to make any edits that you want. But typically at this point, I like to go up and click manual edit. And then this is where I can add activities, I can add more slides. I can also go over here and I can delete slides. So if there's one that I maybe don't want in, I can click it and hit delete and it's gone. If I want to add another activity, I go over to the left, choose add activity, and then this is where I see the 6 different question types of Curipod. So let's say I want to add a drawing activity. This is one of my favorites. I would just click drawing. It will enter a new slide directly after the slide that you are clicked on. At this point, I can click where it says write drawing instructions and I can type whatever it is I want them to write. I can also go over here and I can change the duration. So 5 minutes is too long. I want to make this really quick. So we're going to do 1:30 seconds. I can add a background that they draw on. This is really nice for, say, math, where you might want a sheet of graph paper as the background. And there's some other settings that you can mess with as well. I also love this feature. There's an option you can turn it off where students get to vote on the different drawings. In my experience, this adds a lot of motivation and engagement. So you can also change the voting time duration. I find about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes is usually just right for voting. And that's it. So now I've got another activity added here. Now let's say I want to edit an activity that they created for me automatically. I can click through my slides and notice some slides are not interactive slides. So this is an example and it says right here, this is not an interactive slide. This would be an example of an informative slide. This one is an example of an activity that was added automatically. I can go over here, I can change this however I want. This is an open-ended answer. 3 minutes might be a little longer than my students need, so I'm going to change that to 2. You can set a character limit if you want, and all sorts of other good stuff. You can even set automatic feedback where the AI uses your information to give students immediate feedback. Now, let's say that you want to add a non-activity slide. You go over to the left, just like we did for activity, but instead of choosing add activity, we choose add slide. Then it'll ask you, what type of slide do you want? Do you want more of a header, an image, a header and text? Let's say header and text. And then same like we did with the activity, it adds a new slide in here, and then I can click up and I can edit that slide however I want. At this point, I recommend clicking the Classroom Simulator button at the top, and it will actually allow you to test the activity with the student view on one side of the screen, the teacher view on the other side of the screen. So it's perfect to see exactly what your students are going to see, test the activities, and be able to test the teacher controls so that you're confident going into the live lesson with your students. When you are ready to do that live lesson, you're just going to click on the Start Lesson button up in the top right corner.